Hello everyone, I'm Ed Monk, co-owner of Last Resort Firearms Training in Whitehall, Arkansas. I'm a retired Army officer, a current part-time law enforcement officer, and a former school teacher. I'll be doing 2 classes again this year at TACCON. One is the active shooter problem and how we can minimize victims in future attacks, and the other is riot and violent protest survival. The active shooter class is 4 hours long. It'll be given on Friday afternoon. It is updated from previous years if you've seen them before. And I developed this presentation a long time ago. I've been researching this topic for about the last 15 years. It came out of me becoming a school teacher when I retired out of the Army and found out what the policies of schools were, which is actually increasing the victim count. So that'll cover how the U.S. has been failing at responding to active shooters for the last 40 years, which is why we continually have high victim counts, and that we absolutely must change our country's response to active shooter attacks if we want a lower number. The goal for all active shooter attacks should be single-digit victims, 0 to 9, single digits. Instead, we continually get victim counts in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. Math and time is the key to this, and that's what nobody else that covers this that I know of talks about, the key of math and time. And what that shows us is the only way to have a good chance of achieving a low victim count is an immediate counterattack by the victims, the intended victims who are there. Not somebody we're going to call to come there, but the people who are already there when the attack starts. Responding police cannot give us low numbers. They can stop it once they get there, but that's just too far down the line. The only way to get low numbers is the people there to fight back. We'll look at in depth about 30 attacks overall. We'll look at lessons learned from that. We will cover Uvalde. We will cover the Greenwood Mall attack. And then we'll look at options for both organizations such as schools, churches, and businesses, and individuals on how to plan to and respond to the attack if they find themselves in the location that the attack starts. And then it'll show why armed citizens are the absolute best response to counter the active shooter if we grade the best response on what gives us the lowest victim counts. We'll look at considerations for armed people, whether they be armed citizens or law enforcement officers. We'll look at considerations for things like mindset, gear, tactics, and training to best set you up for how to respond to this successfully if you find yourself in this situation. So if you want to understand this threat better, understand why the nation has been failing and therefore what we got to do to try to fix it, and the only way to get low numbers, then come to this presentation on Friday afternoon. I will have handouts. I plan to probably around 30 or 40. So the first 30 or 40 that show up, if you want handouts for the active shooter class, I'll have those available. Cash only, please. I don't know what they'll cost yet because I haven't got them printed. The second presentation I'm doing at TACCON this year is Riot and Violent Protest Survival. That'll be Sunday morning. It'll be the same as last year because there really hasn't been any new developments. It's slightly updated, but really there's not going to be any huge differences. It'll help attendees to that presentation understand who the attackers are, who the threat is, their motivations and goals, which are quite a bit different than the mugger or the active shooter, the weapons and tactics we can expect them to use, and then the social, political, and legal environment and the aftermath of that kind of attack. And the big key takeaway there is any resistance that we good people offer to violent protesters or rioters has a great chance of rapidly progressing to deadly force. And we know the problems that causes. It's the possibility of physical harm to us, not to mention death, negative effects on our family, our future employment, our freedom, and the money of the legal fight that we'll have ahead of us. And that's a problem because of the 3 threats that we deal with. This has the highest legal scrutiny. You could do everything well within the law and what any reasonable person would describe as reasonable, and you can still get prosecuted. You could still get convicted. So if you want to better understand this threat, so before it happens to you, you can war game it, come up with your own triggers, your own rules of engagement, and maybe optimize your gear for that. Come there to the riot and violent protest presentation on Sunday morning. And remember, and I'll probably already also have handouts for it. And if this is your first TACCON, and you're flying there and getting a rental car, remember our little tradition. Before you leave and take your rental car back to the airport, pick up 20 or 30 empty shell casings off the live fire ranges and just toss them in the front and back floorboard of your car. So those good people at Avis and Hertz will have something to talk about when you turn it in. We're just a few days away. I'm looking forward. I hope to meet a lot of you there at TACCon coming up soon. Thanks.